Today we are talking about change. Change in Smite. And for once, this is actually a positive thing. So there are a lot of things going on at the moment surrounding Smite that I think will shape the game in the future to different varying degrees, but are very, very interesting to look at. Most of them come from Hi-Rez or Titanforge themselves, and some also come from the community. We look at the community ones towards the end. Now I have to be clear ahead, because I know someone will complain about it otherwise. This does not mean that the game will be perfect afterwards, or that there are no longer any issues with Smite at all. That's not what I'm implying here, but I'd like to point out the positive things that are done at the moment to improve the game and improve things around the game that we've been complaining about for a long time or waiting for change for a long time, and look into that. And the first one that I wanted to look into is a Trello board that Hi-Rez recently released to the public. Now, if you're not familiar with Trello, to simply describe it, it is some sort of like group board where multiple people can work on and can basically edit different notes and give you an overview of what's going on. The purpose Titanforge is using this board for is very smart, because what they're doing is they're showing us what changes are planned for the game in the near future when it comes to issues that are being fixed. So for example, at the moment we have something for all platforms, which is triple worshipper event not working, crossplay not working properly, Merlin Ice Storm sometimes dealing infinite damage, Jormungandr sometimes being unable to refire his submergibility and basically staying submerged multiple times, or Merlin auto skill turning off mid-match, that kind of stuff. And I've seen some complaints from some of you guys about these very issues, especially the Jormungandr one came up quite a lot, and I've noticed that myself. And this way, if you have an issue, you can check this Trello board to see if this issue is already in Hi-Rez focus. They don't list every single issue there that exists, but every major issue that's being worked on, and it always shows at what state that currently is as well, if it's already completed or if it's being worked on right now, and when it will be completed approximately by different color nodes, I think, as far as I understand it. So you can kind of figure out, is it worth reporting this bug, this issue to Hi-Rez again, or talking about it much, or can we just wait until it's fixed because it's already in the works? And the first time I saw this board was actually with all the party issues, so I'm pretty happy that that part is fixed as far as I know now at least. Additionally, or maybe in a way in the same context, Titanforge also has a new executive producer, and he's already told us a few things about what his goals for the future are. The person in question here is Titanforge Travis, who will be saying a lot more about how Smite is handled in the future. And what he has to say so far is what the near-term goals are that have been set. In that regard, when it comes to polish, from now on the goal is to have quality over quantity, reduce complexity, I think that part needs a little bit of work still looking at Jormungandr, and remove the suck, however you want to explain that. Also, another goal is to get us excited about Smite, introduce new ways to play the game, focus on gameplay quality of life and community engagement. And additionally, also improve new player onboarding. He puts it as follows: let's face it, you don't want those noobs in your games, and they could do without you stomping them. So basically, his goal here is to clean up the gameplay experience overall in the near term, and I think that is a very good goal that Smite really needed for a while now, and that a lot of people have been talking about, and it's always been kind of not ignored but put on the back burner compared to releasing new stuff. And I think this focus on quality will do very well for the game, and it kind of works together with the slowed down guard release that we're seeing at the moment as well. In regards to community engagement, I know that Hi-Rez is still working on some things right now. We already have seen the Olympians, for example, but I think, as far as I know, we can expect more things in the future when they're more fleshed out. So that is something cool to look forward to. And we, for example, also saw an artist on the last Death Inside. So you have a little bit here and there where that's already introduced, but it gives you a bit of an idea of where this is going to lead. And on that note, Travis has already made a post today showing us the new UI plans basically and how they shifted around. Just a very quick draft basically from a meeting asking us how we feel about this, if we're okay with this. And I really like this transparency even on a micro level, basically, where you just get like little bits of information here and there and know what's going on behind the scenes, especially in combination with the Trello. And I really, really like that, and I'm really looking forward to having this constant flow of information to know how the game's developing and to possibly also have an input when we don't like something. That's not all though. Titan Forge has also been stepping up their game when it comes to promotions a lot. First of all, there are some new ads for Smite related to Jormungandr and stuff like that. Much of that is more focused towards the Switch and maybe not that important for everyone else, but it's still good to get these new players, and through crossplay we will all kind of experience a bigger player pool that way. They have also ran various promotions with other YouTubers that are not in Smite, but in other places. One of them being Achievement Hunter on their Let's Play channel, a channel called Some Call Me Johnny, Spawn Wave, and Beat 'em Ups. I will link everything down below so you can check that out in the description if you want to. But yeah, they've done a lot of different promotions, sponsored promotions for Smite with the Switch release that I think gets a new audience to the game, especially because most of these videos also got decent views for being from channels that normally don't make Smite content. Another promotion that most of you are probably aware of is the promotion through Twitch Prime. We have the new King Arthur skin that you can get through Twitch Prime, and I think Twitch Prime is a very, very good marketing spot for any kind of game really, because you get people interested in possibly checking out the game just because they can get a free skin for it or coming back to the game after a while. And I know it's worked pretty well for other games before, and I know that Hi-Rez is running a very long campaign with them now. I think multiple skins throughout the year as far as I understand it. So this is going to be an ongoing thing, and that can really help. And it's interesting that they got this deal while Skillshot has a deal with Mixer at the same time, but who knows, it worked out somehow. Now, we don't exactly know why all these changes happened, but I have my suspicions, and a big part of that is that now Hi-Rez Stu is the face of the company, and he has always been known to be very passionate about Smite. So I have a feeling, I know that this is going on in a similar way in the other games, but I have a feeling that this push for polish and making the games feel better might stem from him or from the investors behind that said, okay, we don't like the current approach that Hi-Rez has taken in general or something. I can only speculate here, I don't know anything about that, but I think it's definitely nice to see either way. And in that sense, I also have to say that I think Hi-Rez has really been stepping up their game with guard releases. Samdi was already a very good start that gave us an indication of what was to come, a very unique character. Pili, I guess not quite as much, but still unique enough. And then with Hera, King Arthur, Merlin, Jormungandr, we had 4 very unique guards in terms of their playstyle, in terms of how they're utilized in their class. I know there are obviously still references to other characters, like for example Hera and Skadi are not worlds apart, but still they have very unique bits worked into their kits, into their abilities, into their playstyle that makes them stand out, and it's getting more and more in my opinion, basically since King Arthur it's not stopping anymore. And while not everyone will like these characters or think these characters are balanced, I think we can all agree that they have very unique styles in how they're played, and I think that's a very enjoyable upgrade. And I think that we will see similar things towards the future with a slowed down release schedule that allows more room for the guards to breathe, to be improved and be promoted properly as well. So very good direction there too. But those shifts are not the only ones we're seeing. We're also seeing a massive amount of changes when it comes to community content, I would call it, I guess, at the end, but not the content in the sense of videos or something, but rather tools and other things that are available to us that I think are definitely underrated at this point still. The first one here is Smite.guru getting a complete visual overhaul with completely new stats that are accessible for every single god and everything that you can check out. So if you want to see how your performance stacks up, there's a lot more that you can look into now, and you can analyze things a lot deeper than you could beforehand. And I think it's absolutely worth another look if you haven't looked at it in a while. It's still in the process of being updated right now, but your profile is probably already over on the new page if you're on PC. You can also still access the old page through old.smite.guru. Additionally, we have not 1, not 2, but 3 different ways to get information about character damage and DPS right now. The first one is one I already talked about in a recent video. That is how the Hunter Silver Branch build came to be. That is Impish Coconut, who does these massive calculation sets for all characters of one class with all items, with every possible scenario almost in terms of defense and everything, and then puts out the spreadsheets on Reddit. Again, I will talk about those more in the near future. He's actually working on something in that regard as we speak that I will talk about in a video. And outside of that, there's also a completely new DPS comparison tool by Kiro, which is definitely worth looking into. He basically did what CredCalc was, but for 2 builds at the same time. So you can compare these builds side by side with various amplifiers, and you can basically set everything yourself, and is very visually pleasing to look at on top of that. So really cool if you're interested in any form of DPS calculator, especially if you want to compare different builds. Definitely a great option. It has some things that are still work in progress. They're all listed on the side. For example, attack chains are not implemented yet, but there's also another option. Unknown 1 has updated CredCalc and called it CredCalc Reloaded, fittingly enough. That one is basically a completely updated version of CredCalc for the current patch. Now, I'm not quite sure about the specifics here when it comes to attack chains and stuff like that. I asked about it, I'll see if I get a response, but I'm guessing that the attack chains might already be implemented, considering that Cred probably didn't leave them out back in the day. So basically, if you want to get a good overview of the builds that exist that are very much towards the top end, then you can look at Impish Coconut's build. Then you can put those builds into Kero's DPS comparison tool and see if those numbers work out in specific scenarios. And then you can double check them with the CredCalc Reloaded to see if those numbers still fit the same way with attack chains and everything too. I gotta be honest, towards the early season, I wasn't quite sure about where Smite would go from here and its future, as the game is pretty old at this point and it's still a little bit rough around the edges, and I figured who knows what's gonna happen with no Conquest map being released this season or something that would have a big impact for at least Conquest players. But with all these things going on from higher side and from the community, I think there are a lot more factors that can keep us interested in the game for a longer time, and I think that's a really good thing. And those are some nice closing words. So if you're new to the channel, feel free to click the sub button and maybe the bell, it really helps me out. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to click the like button. And other than that, see you for the next one tomorrow. DukeSloth.